women's rights, legal rights, and the law of the adaptation. The fighting for legislation.
Okay. Let's look at number 2 again, what we are supposed to do, and see whether from that what was agreed on in the morning could be of any help. We're supposed to come up with suggestions for a gender responsive legislation agenda, legislative agenda. What is it that should be in the agenda of parliaments, the order papers, in terms of gender and climate change? I guess in summary, that's what it should be about. What is it that should be, as parliamentarians, in terms of legislation? And I think it's important to note it down. I'll put it down here, because we want to be looking at that for some time. Yeah. Rachel, you just talk to me, someone, very, okay, there you go. Yes. I think there's nothing else. First document.
Yeah, the first draft. The one
Can you read it out?
It's the Global Congress of Women in Politics and Government.
Rapporteur, can you read that out for us?
Page 1.
Legislative measures.
Okay, yes. Construct a legal regime that safeguards the security of women affected by climate change, including mechanisms to review land use planning and infrastructure work. Ensure that governmental policies and programs on human rights, women's rights, including CEDAW, and climate change are coherent and reinforce each other.
Yes.
Incorporate climate change in discussions on women's rights and related interventions, which often focus on political, social, and economic empowerment and protection in non-disaster contexts.
Okay, have you had that, all of you? Do you have that document? Yes. Because I think those are 3 areas for legislation that are relevant to gender and climate change. Yes?
So, I think first we must find out whether we could have even legislation on climate change, because this is supposed to be part of the legislation. So the first thing that we could say could add to this is ensure that your country or interrogate the legal framework on issues of climate change, either through the ministries or whatever, so that we know whether we have even policies on climate change.
So on the legislative agenda, we should ensure as parliamentarians that there is gender and climate change, or climate as an issue, first and foremost. Because you might find that our parliaments are not discussing that at all. But I think our parliaments are at least discussing climate change. But the important thing here is, are they looking at climate change with a gender, in the gender perspective, or with a gender lens? Or we just talk about climate change without knowing that climate change is gendered? I think that's now what we need to ensure, that our parliaments are discussing not just climate change, but the way climate change impacts on men and women. Right?
Yeah. I also know we have gender ministries, so gender commissions, some countries, women affairs. But I wonder how much, to what extent they are involved in that discussion. Number 2, they also seem to be the least funded. So probably, I don't know what role we can play in terms of ensuring that they are funded properly. And also they have that as an agenda, climate change issue, since, they are the best organ in terms of facilitating this discussion?
So we need to monitor the budgeting. We need to monitor the budgets or budget monitoring to ensure that there is funding for climate change, but also gender and climate change in terms of awareness, in terms of funding, specific funding for women who have to deal with climatic change, drought, floods, whatever. Okay? Thank you. What else? So the budgeting should be gender responsive when we are looking at funding climate change. Something about women's rights. What about women's rights? I think in what he read is women's rights. How was that brought in? How does women's rights now come in the context of climate change? Yeah?
Small contribution related to that one. And in the group looking at migration, there was an issue about for example, where you have refugees migrating from one country to another. Tanzania is the case. But also there could be movements or migration within the country. And for the pastoral communities, I did mention this. In Tanzania, for example, we have livestock keepers from around Lake Victoria moving into actually down south as far as Malawi and Zambia. Because there are no places for their livestock in the north. It's all destroyed because of climate change. But also I gave an example whereby we had rich people moved into a wetland which is supplying water to a hydropower station. Because of livestock went dry, there was no electricity. What the government did was to move all the people, evict all the people and their livestock from this wetland area to other places. Now the point here was, unfortunately, both at an international level but also at the local level, including national level, normally there is no assessment of impact in advance, well in advance, to try to understand what is likely to happen.
Are they warning?
Pardon?
Are they warning?
Well, think about environmental impact assessment.
Yeah.
Just to guide and help the local communities, but all international institutions who are supporting migration or refugees, but the refugees themselves to know where they are going, what's likely to happen there, and the local community to understand how they are going to be impacted by the incoming migrants. So it's an issue which requires either early warning, but I would call it environmental impact assessment. It's by law, one should actually undertake this.
Remember, we are looking at gender.
Yes,
So
what I wanted to say, at the end of the day, it's the women and the children.
So you're talking about gender segregated.
Yes. It's the men who are moving with the livestock. They move away